Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of One Take, and we're back with my good old friend here, SytYoshi. Welcome back, Yoshi.
Oh, glad to be back.
And today, our subject matter, instead of talking about the Star Trek shows before, like we did in the last episode with TNG and DS9, this time we're going to be talking about the various Star Trek movies that have came out during its show's run, and also we could go dive deep into a bit of the reboot territory as well, which I believe is called the Kelvin timeline, is what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first movie that was released theatrically was Star Trek the Motion Picture, which I didn't see, actually. My first one I saw was Star Trek 2. Did you see the motion picture, the first one?
Honestly, I've I've seen the end of the original one. I just like for whatever reason the first one never really gravitated toward me, but I've always seen like the the closing act of it, and I kind of know what it's all about just from prior people talking about it and various articles. But yeah, that's the probably one in five or the ones I've seen the least of.
Because I did hear, like, I didn't watch this one, but I did hear it was essentially just a remake of an episode, like, just a big budgeted, like, episode, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like an original story of doing something original, which I guess was the problem people had with it, is that it was just a remake.
Oh, I'm sure it's like also they've been off. The original series has been off the air for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, for all people talk about the original series, it got famously lampooned on SNL that it ran for literally 3 years, if that. So just yes, and maybe a fancy episode, but it would have been out of the people's consciousness for a long time.
Yeah, I also didn't start with the original show in terms of the shows. I started with TNG as
Mm-hmm,
well.
same here.
So I personally had no nostalgia for the original show, like for Shatner's show. Like I personally am not a big fan of his because I just think he's kind of not a I just think he's kind of mean in person, but I don't know, from what I've seen at least. Um, and then there's Star Trek Two: The Wrath of Khan, which would be the second one in the original cruise series, which came out 3 years after the motion picture, which I did watch. This was the first one. This was the first Star Trek film I did see ever, because I think this is the one my dad showed me first,
Mm-hmm.
and I really loved this one. Like this one was the one that like really like set up big stakes, and like the ending of course is like very iconic with, spoiler
Yes.
alert, Spock dying at the end of it. So what did you think of Wrath of Khan altogether?
It's a very good movie. It truly did feel like I think it's not too. It's one of the, it's not the first one I've seen. It's one of the earlier ones that I've seen in its entirety. And yeah, it's just a even if you have no affinity for the main or for Shatner, just I don't know the way you can feel the chemistry between all the main just the Enterprise crew and just the stakes involved. And when you have Ricardo Montalban as your primary villain, just
Mm-hmm.
it gives it more credibility in my mind.
Yeah.
It just brings such a gravitas to the role of Khan.
Yeah, and then of course the ending everybody talks
The
about.
ending is the ending is very iconic in so many different ways.
Yeah, that and then there was the sequel that came out 2 years after, The Search for Spock, which had Christopher Lloyd as the main Klingon, which I was surprised by when I saw this. I was like, whoa, that's shocking.
Yeah, that's that catches everybody by surprise.
Because when I heard him scream, I was like, "Oh, that's totally Christopher Lloyd's voice." Because I just heard Doc Brown in that Klingon. I was like, "Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
totally him." Star Trek Three: The Search for Spock, I actually think is a pretty decent follow up. It's not as good as Wrath of Khan, but I did enjoy it for what it was. I mean, what did you think of
It's a
Search for Spock?
it's a good movie. It's just Probably because it's just the way 2 ended, and then the way 3 plays out over the course of the movie. It's just not. It just didn't pack the same punch as the kind of the high everybody was riding after the way 2 ended, and it's just just something about the way that whole movie played out. I mean, like you said, it's a good movie, but it just didn't resonate with everybody. As it,
Yeah, it just didn't have the emotional crutch of the second one, I guess, of Khan, and then like it just felt like a. I guess you could say it did felt like a cop out to bring back Spock in this way, because obviously like it's literally in the title, the search for Spock.
mm-hmm.
So it's like, so everybody's like, oh well, Spock's gonna live now.
Yeah, yeah. I've watched 3 like several times, and for like 2, to me, you feel the tension throughout the whole movie between the whole Genesis planet and sort of what's Khan doing, the cat and mouse games that's coming up, and the climatic endings. And then 3 is just it's just a race against time to it's like how they steal the Enterprise out of space dock, and then they just cut in between them, Sovak and Spock. I think Sovak's the other who's with them, or Savick. That they're just trying to survive on the decaying Genesis planet until they can get rescued in some fashion.
Mm-hmm. Um, and then I just I wouldn't say there was anything particularly too memorable with this one, like other than probably Christopher Lloyd standing out to me as the villain in it. I would say, but it was good. But I would, like I said, it wasn't really comparable as good as like Wrath of Khan
Mm-hmm.
as I was hoping for. But then there was Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, which I actually loved a lot when I first saw this.
Yeah, I love it. I really love this movie.
This is
There's so
actually
many memorable quotes out of this movie
this
too.
is actually one we're gonna talk about probably a little bit more. But Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home has the plot of Wales and San Francisco, essentially.
Time travel.
Time travel in the 80s. We're
Yeah.
in San Francisco. And it's the most wackiest, weirdest Star Trek film I've ever seen, and probably the funniest one I've seen too.
It's so much fun.
Like, just,
I mean,
yeah.
between the serious nature of like the underlying message of it, but it's just a fun movie in a Star Trek in the Star Trek universe.
And also, what I love about it is that you can watch it without having to watch the original series, like you said with Wrath of Khan. Like, you could
Oh,
just go
totally.
into it and just not be lost at all, because, it's just its own plot. Like,
Hmm.
and also, like, it's just really funny. Like the scene when Spock and Kirk are inside, was the marine biologist's car and they're arguing about Italian food. That just made me
Hmm.
laugh so much. And then there's Scotty trying to talk to the computer with the mouse. Hello, computer.
And then when he's actually interacting with the computer, that's the whole scene in itself.
That's pretty great. And then when Chekhov gets caught by the FBI or whatever it is.
Uh huh.
There's so many great moments in this movie. I wish also, in a way, that the marine biologist character came back, since she enlisted into Starfleet now at the end of it, essentially. So I
Yeah, but she's civilian, so they're not gonna put her.
well,
They would have to work very hard to work her back into any feature series.
well, I mean, didn't she say she was gonna do like a scientist run, like when she was going there? Like,
Yeah, I mean, more researching on because she's the whale expert of that time. She's the only whale expert of that time, so
mm-hmm.
that it would be very hard for them to integrate her into any future plot lines. Sort of.
I just really like Catherine Hicks a lot as an actress ever since seeing her in the Child's Play series, the Chucky films.
Hmm.
you obviously haven't seen them because they're horror films. So
I have, yeah, I don't go near those.
and then yeah, there's Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. I would say is probably my personal favorite in the original crew film run. Like out of the ones I've seen at least. Because
Yeah.
it's just so much fun. It knows what it's doing and it does it very well. Is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
And Leonard Nimoy also wrote and directed it too. And he did a great job with this one, in my opinion. So I mean,
Yeah, it's one of the favorites of mine as well.
and then there's Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, that nobody talks about as their favorite.
Uh, yeah, it's
So I didn't see this one fully. I saw like maybe half of it, but maybe when I
which
was like,
half of it?
I don't even remember it honestly. I just remember God and Spock's half brother,
Yeah,
which I was like, what?
yeah.
I mean, what did you think of The Final Frontier?
This one I avoid at all costs. I I watched it. I watched it once, and I literally, if I stumble upon it, I try to get towards the. I would watch it like the back, like the last hour, half hour if all possible. But yeah, it's just I don't like
I
it.
don't think anyone does.
Yeah,
I mean, this is the only one apparently written and directed by Shatner, which kind of goes to show, honestly.
yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of a short and sweet review for The Final Frontier.
Yeah,
Just avoid it.
yeah. I mean, say you can watch. Say you watched it once, but then yeah, that you don't need to watch it again.
And then we have I now this one I actually didn't see yet, but Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country, which is
You have to see it.
the final one with the original crew,
With the original crew,
and you like this one as well.
it's so good.
And so
It's
it's so as the final film with the original crew, is it like a good send off to them? Like,
yes, it's a great. It's like almost a baton passing to TNG,
mm-hmm.
but it's kind of the whole, the Enterprises being some short summary. The it's a transition for essentially the whole Star Trek universe, and how do you deal with of possible of letting go of the past and looking towards the future, which is um part of the main underlying thrust of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
How both uh, with that, since you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it too much. But I think it's a great send off for the original crew in any format. That they're together as one as a crew of Enterprise, even though they, you'll see some members pop up here and there in the series.
And I know I actually do know who plays the villain in it. I believe it's Christopher Plummer, who may rest in peace. He passed away recently. But he's a great actor, and I've always thought he was pretty underrated. Like he doesn't really get talked about a lot as an actor, in my opinion. I'm just like, huh? I mean, if you have you seen Knives Out by any chance, or
I
no?
have not.
Oh, you really need to see Knives Out. He's in it, and he's really good in it. And yeah, and I do plan on seeing Star Trek 6 eventually because it's also by the same director who did the Rathacon as well. So I've definitely.
See, the under there's like so much underlying tension. It's not like it's kind of like two where there's four you had the like you said the comedic aspect to it running throughout the entire movie. Six, there's this underlying there's just the underlying tension in in every facet of the movie, and I'm looking up who did the. I don't know if he's Mr. Christopher Plummer is considered the main villain, but Oh, it is. Yeah, he is. Yeah, you're right. He does such a great job of it, and the way he's quoting Shakespeare throughout the entire movie. And again, there's some other memorable quotes that come out of this movie too. So yes, I encourage anyone who hasn't seen Six to at least see it once, even if you're not a Star Trek fan. Just it's a great movie.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna give it a watch whenever they add it to Paramount Plus, because it's weird because they only have like a few of these films on like streaming, and they're like it's fucked up. It's like all over the place with the streaming services. Like, um, Star Trek 4, Generations, and Nemesis are on Paramount Plus, but so is all the shows, which doesn't make any sense then, because I'm wondering where's the rest of the movies then at that point.
Probably because they know people will pay to see Six.
Oh man, man, why don't they just add six already to the streaming service? I just I want to watch that one already if I can find a way.
But yeah, Six has a great send off, and they at the end they do the whole space, the final frontier, and it's just unknowingly catapults you into the next generation because that's the end of the of the original crew, and then everybody who has recent fandom are all fans of TNG. So yeah, it's a perfect send off.
And speaking of TNG, we're moving on to the next set of series, which is the TNG films now. Which is the first one that released in terms of their label was Star Trek Generations, which did have also some of the original cast back, and also had the TNG cast with them. I did see this one actually since Paramount Plus had it. It was okay. It was cool. Like it was nice seeing the cast like together. I just didn't like I with Search of Spock. I just didn't find anything particularly memorable with it. Like there were some cool moments, obviously with Data, and like I loved seeing Picard and Kirk interact. But overall, it just kind of escapes my memory every time I think about it.
Generations, yeah, it's okay. And I think it has its moments. Kind of this, I don't know, same vibe as maybe Six is, Picard's thinking about his future once certain events transpire early in the movie, so that enters the picture. But yeah, Generations is okay. It's not a movie I personally go out of my way to watch if I see it somewhere playing. It's just just something about, like you said, nothing memorable sticks out for me.
I mean, it had Malcolm McDowell as a villain, which was cool.
Yeah, I nothing nothing vibes with it though. He's just there.
Yeah.
Even though even if he is a great actor, he's not the way Montalban resonated with us and Khan. So.
And then there was Kirk's death in the film, which he gets crushed by a bridge apparently.
Yeah, even that felt hollow for whatever.
Yeah.
Just certain for Kirk to go out that way, it just did not sit well with me.
I will say there was this funny joke that Shatner made the years later after making that film. He said, instead of Captain on the Bridge, it's Bridge on the Captain.
Yeah, no. I guess plus the whole they decided to destroy Enterprise D as the consequence of the movie's plot is just and the whole lighting of the Enterprise just felt so opposite of how they showed it in the series.
Exactly. I just felt it like you said, nothing stood out to me in this film. Like it's okay. Like I just like again, I like seeing Patrick Stewart in films or in TV in general because I think he has a very
Fair.
charismatic presence. And Data, I've always loved Brett Spiner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, yeah, I don't hate this one, but like you said, it's not memorable, at least. And then I didn't see this one yet, but I heard this is the best one out of the ones. First Contact.
Oh, go you between six and First Contact. You must see First Contact. This is, I believe, the when trying to rank Star Trek films for me, this this is on the top tier. First Contact is the best.
That's some high words there. I did I know First Contact involves the Borg. That's
It
all I
it,
know.
it does.
Because I've seen the episodes, and
Mm-hmm.
I've seen most of the show already at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I haven't seen this film yet though for some reason, but everybody keeps telling me to, including
I
Quasi.
would highly encourage you to watch First Contact.
And it's also the first one directed by Jonathan Frakes, who I love in the show too. Um, and then there was the other one him that he directed, Insurrection, which I also didn't watch. And did you watch that one?
Yes, I did. It's okay. Is I guess it goes back to the whole it's an extended episode kind of feeling. Just nothing, the whole tagline, join the insurrection, in the lead up in the marketing leading up to it, but other than that kind of cutesy fun line and a couple fan service moments, there's nothing really that stands out to me for this movie.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really say what it's like. I don't even know what the plot is, so to that one. I just heard it's very unmemorable in comparison to the other ones.
Yeah, that I think that's like I said, there's some fan servicey kind of things, but yeah, for the most part, it's nothing really memorable. I know that some basic things that happen throughout the movie, and they kind of tie it into th- things that were going on in the Star Trek universe at the time to justify it. But otherwise, yeah, it's you don't need the whole deep lore of the Star Trek universe to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, First Contact and Undiscovered Country, the more you know about the lore and the lore of the universe, you get more of a extra bang for your buck kind of feeling when watching it.
Mm-hmm. And then there was Nemesis, which came out a year later, which was the last one
I
of the TNG ones.
despise this movie for
Oh.
so many reasons.
I didn't see this one, but I definitely know what happens in it after. Because okay, so I actually did watch the first episode of Picard with my dad when it premiered,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't see the rest of the show. I didn't watch it yet because I wanted to watch TNG before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see that, and I didn't see Nemesis, but I did hear Nemesis was a pretty weak finale in terms of its films.
Honestly, the moment I felt a sense of anger when the credits rolled. I I I was mad when I left when the movie ended.
Was that the first time you've ever been mad at a theater movie?
Possibly.
I've been mad at a couple of movies back then. Like I think the first one of the first ones I definitely got mad at was Transformers, one of the Transformers sequels. Like I was just so pissed off that I wasted so much time and money for that. But so what made you hate
the
Nemesis so much?
So since you watched Picard, you
I know
probably
what
know the thing.
happens.
That's probably what made me the most mad because it just seems so. I don't.
Left
I
field?
think that
Like
not
it's
maybe it didn't the if they were going for a Spock Shatner moment, it failed.
well, it obvious. I don't think anything could top that moment, honestly, in
No,
Star
but
Trek.
if they're trying to at least give some echoing of that, it failed for me.
Well, I
And I
know,
think
yeah.
that's the general consensus. I mean, at least that's what I felt. Or that's the general consensus of everyone's reaction because it just didn't resonate as maybe they thought it would for the for the community. It's just something about Nemesis just felt off.
And poor Tom Hardy. That was his first ever movie role too.
He survived.
I know. I know he did.
He survived, so don't weep for him and for Nemesis.
It, I mean, he did make better films after that, so let's be honest. So, I mean, I did hear the TNG cast also hated working on this film too. Like, they just felt like it wasn't TNG to them, essentially. Like, and Patrick Stewart even said, like, while he was making Picard, that it was a weak movie. He said.
For the part of it too, it's just for it to be. I'm not sure if they confirmed that it would be the last one for the TNG cast.
They were gonna make a final film after Nemesis, but it got scrapped due to the poor reception.
And see, that's the studio's fault because they deserve a better send off than Nemesis, in my opinion.
And but I guess,
like I said,
yeah.
Generations was okay. First Contact was great, in my opinion. Nemesis Insurrection was okay. Nemesis was just awful. And I think, like I said, like I know my adjectives are getting progressively worse as we talk about this movie, but personally, they deserve the better send off.
Well, that sucks. I mean,
I can't think akin to. I mean, because everybody loves TNG as a series, and
well, yeah, I do too. And it's like
no, and I'm saying for them to get a very poor send off, what it turned out to be a send off compared to the original cast, who where everybody almost universally loves Six, is sad for me.
Yeah, when I just heard about that certain death in Nemesis that happened because of watching Picard, I was like, oh, really? That happened? Because I didn't know what happened in Nemesis when I watched Picard, because I didn't know anything about TNG until before I watched TNG, and I was like, really? That happened? Data? So yeah,
they cut. I mean, through the movie. In the movie, it was telegraphed, but it just. Again, I felt more mad that it happened this way.
It seems like it. Oh,
I mean, because that was seemed like that was the whole main focus of the movie, is just Picard and Data. There was no spotlight given to the other crew members, and just okay.
It seems like you got more mad at this movie than you did at The Final Frontier.
Because I mean, honestly, for all the original movies, I didn't go to a theater. I just saw it on TV when it would show up, or people would mention it to me in passing. We'll see it together. Oh, okay, I literally paid money. I mean, I was with a group of friends in school. Wasn't it in school? No, this was that one.
2002 was when Nemesis came out.
Yeah, I paid money out of my own pocket to see this movie, and I was I was just like, nah.
Do you want to know what were the movies released with Nemesis on the box office that same day?
No,
That's
I
why
don't want to know
it
because
was
that
a
was gonna be
commercial
more.
failure because of these movies, and I can understand why. Oh man, those were some big hitters. So the three movies that dethroned Nemesis were Die Another Day, the James Bond Pierce Brosnan movie, um, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and Lord of the Rings: Two Towers. So that kind of explains why it was probably a commercial failure.
No, it's probably all the Star Trek fans who saw it opening day and just bashed it to death. So that dissuaded other Star Trek fans from seeing it. But
So what you're saying is that it still had a chance even with those three films opening the same day?
I don't know if it had a chance. It might have done slightly better. But if you're competing against those heavy hitters, which in back then would have made money hand over fist anyway. But yeah, I yeah, Nemesis is just no.
Nemesis is a no. It's not recommended.
I mean, see it to say you've seen it to you've seen all the Star Trek movies, but
I mean, I'm gonna see it when it comes to. Well, yeah, it is on Paramount Plus. That's the only one I haven't seen yet in the
But
Paramount
yeah,
Plus library.
it's not a movie I'm going out of my way for to see ever again.
And then we have the Kelvin timeline, which is the 2000s films. Um, Now these are the ones that were the first two were directed by J.J. Abrams, and then the third one Beyond would be directed by Justin Lin. And both of these films, both the first two films would be directed, and well, not directed, sorry, written by Alex Kurtzman and Robert Orci, and the screenwriter for Beyond was Simon Pegg and Doug Jung, who I was surprised to see Simon Pegg do his own fingertips on Star Trek, but it was honestly a nice welcome change for Beyond. Well, let's get to the first movie first with J.J. Abrams. The first movie was directed by J.J. Abrams, stars Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto as Spock. And let me just say, I love the cast of these Kelvin films. Like, I think they did the casting a bang up job with this film. Like, I don't know about you, how you feel about the casting of the Kelvin timeline, but I love the cast of these films.
Yeah, the cast is good. I I have no issues with the cast at all.
And so the story in Star Trek in this one, from what I remember, is that it's pretty much like an origin story for Kirk and Spock, essentially, because they do show Kirk as a young boy driving a car off the hill, and then they show him joining up in the Federation, and then we see him eventually boarding the Enterprise while it's still being built, even. So yeah, I remember seeing this actually when it came out, and I remember really enjoying it. I just remember the amount of lens flares that were on it, though. Holy shit! Holy like my eyes felt like I was gonna be blind after seeing that movie. But I enjoyed it for what it was, at least. I thought, because mainly of the cast, like I was so taken aback of the cast and how well they portrayed the characters they were portraying, and the special effects were fantastic for the CGI, at least. And
Oh yeah, no doubt.
and it it was just an entertaining film all around. Like, sure, the story wasn't perfect all around. Like,
No,
it felt
yeah.
cliche in some places and stuff like that. And it did feel more action movie-ish than it did a Star Trek film, I would say. In fact, I would say these films feel more action movie-ish than Star Trek films.
Yes, definitely.
But if you take them for what they are, and this film in particular, I think it's enjoyable for what it is.
So, okay, the Kelvin Star Trek. Having years of thinking about it. Oh my gosh, it's been 10 plus years.
It's been 12 years since the first one came out.
Gosh. So here's what I'll say about this. Having had that much time to think about it, it's a good introductory film for people who have no background in Star Trek at all.
Which I didn't at the time.
So you know nothing. You never know. You don't know that everything seems off from the get go, and then it only as the plots play out, then you say, "Oh, this makes total sense." From the Star Trek, the rest of the
Yeah.
Star Trek gets into it. So yeah, if you have no affinity for Star Trek, or you want to give it a shot, this is the perfect film for you because, as you said, good cast, great, keeps the plot going. You're not lost in the whole history of trying to compare what is going on and why it's so
You're
freakingly different.
you're just there for the ride, essentially.
You're essentially there for the ride. Then they throw in the tidbits like, oh, this is how you're trying to hook the rest of the fandom along into this. And yeah, it's a great movie. It just, to me, caught me at a bad time.
Was this during a time when you phased out of Star Trek, or like was this like like did you not really?
I just saw Jen's text. Did you want to go to dinner?
Oh wait, hold on.
Oh,
later. I'll talk. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
So sorry, I missed the whole conversation.
Oh no, I was just saying. What was I gonna say? I even lost my train of thought. As I was saying before, the first.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, it's a new movie. It's been the new Star Trek for years on end, and everybody, the whole debate of, oh, it's a reboot. This is when this may have started the whole trend of rebooting dead franchises or Asian franchises. It's like, and I saw this movie on my birthday that year, so I'm, long gone Toronto, and I'm just sitting there. It's like, oh, you put a corporate sponsorship in there in the first frames of the movie. that just set me off on a downward trend from there. But as the movie progressed, it's just like, okay, I get it. This is fun. This is they're keeping the movie. You're not getting lost in any lore, but yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah, so, I enjoyed it for what it was. I mean, I thought I thought it was very entertaining.
If everyone goes into the mindset, it's an entertaining movie, and you might get interested in the whole Star Trek universe.
And then there was the sequel, Star Trek Into Darkness, which released 4 years after, which was by the same crew, and they also added Damon Lindelof, who helped out with the story, and who I personally love as a writer. He's the creator behind Lost, and The Leftovers, and the Watchmen shows on HBO. So, yeah, Star Trek Into Darkness. There's a lot to say with this one, in a way. I remember watching it in theaters, like it came out, and I just remember seeing the trailers and being actually really excited for it because I liked the first one a lot, and I was so excited, and it had Benedict Cumberbatch, so I was like really looking forward to it because I saw Sherlock during that time, so I was like, okay, well, oh shit, I'm so excited. I mean, and then you could talk a lot about this movie, honestly. Like, there's a lot to talk about, in a way. I don't even know where to start with first. Like, I guess the big thing to talk about is Benedict Cumberbatch's Khan, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
I think he did a serviceable job. It's just,
it felt different.
yes.
It felt different, which I was like, I don't know how I felt about that. Because, like, I love Benedict Cumberbatch as an actor so much, like, especially as Doctor Strange, and like, of course, his Sherlock. I personally am not a big fan of his stories in Sherlock, but I love his acting in it. But I just thought his Khan was a little too different and not as charismatic as the original one was. because
He plays like a big bad villain kind of.
yeah, and that was the
Yeah.
main problem I had with his villain, I guess, because it just felt like another Star Trek villain. It didn't feel like anything special to me.
Yeah.
That's not to say there's still good things in this movie. There's definitely good things to talk about. And again, the special effects are phenomenal in this film. The acting's great. And the action's still really good. Like, there's still a lot of enthralling moments in Star Trek Into Darkness. I just felt
Mhm.
like the story wasn't as good in comparison to the first in a way, too. I mean, do you have any thoughts on Into Darkness by any chance?
I don't. It's just kind of like with Into Darkness and the next movie. It's just for whatever reason the story just doesn't capture me the way all the others do. Like I can remember bits and pieces of it,
Mm-hmm.
but like how I can get excited about all the other movies, even for Nemesis. Even though I trash it, I can still remember the basic plots and special moments of the movie. But with the latter two, it's just like, they're okay.
I mean, okay, well, with Beyond, I guess we're going to Beyond now. I actually think it's the best one out of the three. I actually personally love this one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because I actually thought this felt the most Star Trek-y out of the ones in the of the Kelvin series.
Mm-hmm.
Because like it was written by Simon Pegg, who's also a huge fan of the series as well, and it shows like how much of a big fan he is by writing this one, and I honestly really enjoyed the chemistry between Idris Elba and as the villain in this one, and Sofia Boutela's sidekick in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I will give that credit though. Idris Elba does stick out to me as you say it.
he's a better villain in my opinion than
I
Benedict
would
was.
say that's Idris Elba doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean, Idris Elba's just a great actor in general. So I mean,
exactly.
I mean,
So I don't know how much of that is him versus the role he played.
mm-hmm. There's actually a film, but off topic, but there's a film on Netflix that just came out called Concrete Cowboy that I really want to see with him. It has him and the kid from Stranger Things, one of the kids from Stranger Things, and it's like a true story about like these urban cowboys, and it looks really interesting. Going back to Star Trek Beyond, this was actually the final role of Anton Yelchin,
I was just about to
who
mention him.
sadly passed away.
Which is sad in most parts because you could see it's like what does come across in all three movies is just the chemistry of the crew, and so if not for his death, I think they could have made many more movies.
Oh yeah, I think it was the death and like the and like it affected everybody. I felt like when that happened.
And I think that's to its credit, the rebooted films with the chemistry of the entire crew. I don't think there's no way. I think the fans would have said, "There's no way you can make another movie with another Chekhov."
Mm-hmm.
That's how much of an impact this whole crew did to the fandom.
Yeah, I just like wonder like what they're gonna do next now after Beyond, because well apparently they are making a new film that's not gonna involve this cast. So I'm wondering what that's gonna be about then. I guess.
I just on a fandom for my fandom. I just want a good. I don't know what I'm wanting. I want a somehow to integrate TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Somehow they mash them up, put them in the blender, and produce one great movie. Some epic movie that those three franchises deserve.
I forgot to mention also for Beyond, in the ending when they killed them with the music at the end of it by Sabotage by Beastie Boys. That was great. I love that moment when they essentially just used the song to kill the aliens. This
I should give that movie another watch.
it's awesome. I really liked it. I saw it in theaters on IMAX, and I had a really good time. Like and it was also the final film before. I think it was the film that paid tribute to Leonard Nimoy, who passed away as well, like a year before it came out. So yeah, it's a good movie in my opinion. I think
it's odd that before all these streaming services started, they would never show, or maybe I just consciously avoided seeing the rebooted franchises on TV. That they would still show all the old generation or the original cast movies, but then they would never show the rebooted franchises.
I mean, I guess it just goes to show how much the original movies still hold up as well. And also like
it's odd that they even four, which is the most in 80s timepieces you can get.
It still holds up.
It still holds up.
Like it's still a really good movie. So do you remember? But before we leave, I actually want to talk about some of these canceled ideas that were apparently going to be a thing. After Beyond, and then there was also. Oh, then we already talked about the new film that's coming out apparently by the Star Trek Discovery writers. So you did hear about Tarantino was gonna make one, right?
I'm not a fan. I'm already telling you, I'm not a fan.
He was, but it canceled. It was canceled. He canceled it last year. But yeah, I'm wondering how that would have been an R-rated Star Trek by Tarantino. Like, holy shit, that would. I wonder, like, if it would have just. What would have that been like? Like, would it just been more bloody? Like, more mature? Like, what would have happened?
Probably a little of both, or just the whole. Given some of Tarantino's films that I'm familiar with, like the Kill Bill series, and he did Inglourious Basterds, right?
Yes, he did.
Then it's given like those three films that I'm like more familiar with. It's just a combination of more bloody and just more just wacky, even for Star Trek. It just seems he kind of teeters on that end of the scale. So it's hard to do an R. They do come up to the lines before, but I just can't see
Tarantino doing a Star Trek film.
No, I can't. I'm having trouble envisioning what an R-rated Star Trek would be. I
don't know what it would be like either. It's just like
maybe if it got the R rating back in Shatner's days, he would have or if Riker was in it somehow, they would have the whole full-fledged sex scenes in there. But yeah,
I would hope not, because I don't think that's what Star Trek's about.
But that's the only reasonable conclusion I can draw from.
Or than maybe blood, maybe bloody.
I think Star Trek comes so close, and even in the series, they come close to the line. Even in Discovery, they come
close to those lines.
Close to those lines of what PG-13R. In my mind, I would say
Picard even in some ways did it too. Like there were some brutal moments in Picard. As well.
Given the two episodes I've seen so far, you can maybe justify it, but sometimes PG-13. They go right up to justify in the reading's mind. They go up to that line, but I just can't see what would tip it over. Like First Contact, you add there's some things that happen off screen, but they show it. That could easily be R in my mind.
It's interesting, like what they would have done for an R-rated Star Trek.
But like to me, Tarantino just kind of bores on even the more unbelievable stuff that could happen that would even for Star Trek fans maybe find too implausible to even occur.
I mean, I'm personally a big fan of Tarantino's films, so I wouldn't have minded if he'd done a Star Trek movie personally. So but
It would for sure be different.
it would be different, absolutely,
Absolutely.
and I think people would talk about it if it did get made.
Oh, I'm sure. Having Tarantino, it would draw in draw in a wider audience
It would
than
draw in Academy Awards.
not necessarily Academy Awards, but Tarantino would draw in the people who would have no prior affiliation with science fiction in general.
And then he would.
Whereas J.J. Abrams has already had that, with Lost and Person of Interest in his, background. You kind of know what you're getting with those people. Whereas Tarantino,
you don't know what you're getting with Tarantino.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, let's just go in and see what crazy stuff he pulls out this time.
And then he'd probably cast Sam Jackson as a Klingon. Because there was a funny.
That could be funny in the right way.
There was a meme out there that was talking about the Tarantino film, and there was like a line that said there was a made up line that says Klingon mother trucker, do you speak it?
He does a good. Samuel Jackson does a great job as Fury in the Avengers in the MCU. So done the right way, he could easily be.
Oh yeah, he's a
great Klingon. So it's just how they would have
saw Kingsman. It. He was a great villain in Kingsman.
I don't remember in Kingsman.
He was what? He was the main villain in Kingsman 1. He was the guy with
the first one?
Yeah, the first one. The cell phones.
Yes.
The cell phones.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it's just.
He had the lisp in that film.
Now that you bring it up, he's the main villain. But no, if done the right way, it's just Tarantino and Jackson. It's like, to me, you're asking for trouble from a perception standpoint.
That I personally would have been interested to see a Tarantino Star Trek film, but that's just me.
So if it's kind of those, okay, we're gonna test it on Netflix or HBO Max and then we'll release it to theaters. I could see that happening now in this environment that we're in.
Well, yeah,
if it's going
streaming services.
If it's going straight to theaters, then no, I would rage against it.
Oh man,
the Star Trek, to my mind, the Star Trek series has suffered enough hits as it is.
It's suffered enough.
Well, Star Wars gets so much love and has so much exposure as it is between the movies, the Mandalorian, the Legos, which I've been asking for years. It's just it can't take unnecessary hits where a Star Wars can absorb some, and plus Star Wars is backed by Disney, and I have no clue what Paramount is doing with Star Trek.
Who knows?
Anyway, off topic.
I who knows what they're doing with Star Trek right now, but we'll see in the future since they are making a new film. I wonder what cast they're gonna bring in, like if it's gonna be like an original cast or if it's gonna be like a former cast. Like, who knows? We'll see what happens.
It kind of, to me, I don't know how to describe it. It just has to. I don't care if it's a new cast or they integrate the old cast, and I've already spoken to that on the old cast part. It just, to me, it just has to feel Star Trek, and I know that's vague as heck, but being in the fandom since TNG is just, I kind of know what I want from a Star Trek movie or Star Trek experience per se, and once I got over my maybe initial disappointment of the Kelvin timeline, it felt Star Trek enough to me where I can accept it, and I won't totally dismiss it out of hand, like, not give me a chance. But
all we're asking,
Tarantino, huh?
No, I was just saying, Paramount. All we're asking is for a good Star Trek film.
Yeah, like kind of tangent to Discovery and Picard. You know, even though it's not a movie, it's a new
Series, technically.
series, new IP kind of thing. It's like, okay, even though they're kind of going for a different vibe than TNG or DS9 or Voyager, it still feels Star Trek to me. There's still this aura about it.
There's still some Star Trek in those shows, like that
It's
I could
enough of the
see.
Star Trek elements that it feels okay. They're going for this kind of mood. I get it, and I will, enjoy. Experience the ride for what it is.
Quasi also showed me the Short Treks series and I actually really enjoyed those too, from what I saw. There was one in particular that really stood out to me. It was like a guy that was like a pilot, and he was talking to an AI essentially the whole time. I don't know if you saw that episode or if you've seen Short Treks in general.
Which one? I don't think I've seen that one.
It was a Short Treks I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a Short Treks episode. I think it's on YouTube, and it involved like a storyline of an engineer or a pilot or something, and an AI was like falling in love with him essentially.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that, so
It's really good. And then there's also I feel like I was. Oh, there's also a Lower Decks, which was the animated show.
I haven't seen it. I've heard those are good.
I have seen it, and it's actually pretty funny.
Least.
It's pretty funny, and I will say there does some good references to the original shows, so I think you'll enjoy it.
So yeah, I just I'll give it. Just give me something that'll capture that feeling of for me being a Star Trek fan.
I just hope for good movies and shows from this series is all I'm hoping for in the future, because I know Star Trek's gonna stay forever. I feel like.
I hope so.
I feel like it will. Like it just seems like it's too influential to not be a thing anymore. Like I can't see it going
It's
away.
influential, but I still think we're still clinging to like TS9 and TNG, because the recent attempts at series just haven't captured the fandom like we expected.
I have a feeling though the fandom will come around these new shows like eventually, because like I feel like it's just getting used to the ropes essentially.
Hope so.
I hope so too.
Because Discovery is. I mean, I'm slowly starting season 2, and it's good. Gets the vibe going again.
I did hear that gets better once you get past it, past most of the season 1 stuff.
Oh, I honestly, season 1's good. I guess season 1 is good. I think it's just why are you paywalling it behind the streaming services where it should it's Star Trek should be on a network somewhere, which I still kind of agree if you want to get it out to the general fandom at the time. And this is when streaming services and all these streaming services were pretty much still in their infancy, and so why paywall? Why hurt it?
Join Paramount Plus is what they're saying.
Yeah, or they, or what CBS did. They showed season 1 this past summer, so we'll see what that does.
We'll see.
But yeah, I mean, if they're doing a new Star Trek movie,
let's just hope for the best.
Hope for the best, and
preparing for the worst.
It's sad that that's part of the mentality, is like hope for the best and there, but now we have to, given who is get cast and how they present it, is
who's gonna be the director and stuff like that. Like,
does it turn out to be a nemesis, because that's the last taste we have for the original crew?
Or will it be another Voyage Home where it's very fun?
it's just weird that somehow there's the running joke that there's all the even movies are the best and the odd ones are the worst. And I remember when Insurrection came out, the buzz was okay. It's an even number movie, and it's gonna be great. It's like okay.
No, was it?
Oh no, they were it was bucking the trend of being.
Oh.
But I forget. First Contact was another even movie, but no, Instructions coming out. It's hoping to be bucks the trend of the worst movies. The odd movies are to be the ones that are worse. Like yeah, it's okay. Kind of feeling.
Okay.
So.
This was a fun retrospective though on the Star Trek movies altogether.
Yeah.
Like getting to know more about the films and
finding out how much I hate
Nemesis and how much of a disappointment it was to you in the theaters. So that was really fun though. Do you have any other thoughts before we close this episode out?
All I'd say is see First Contact and Undiscovered Country as soon as you can.
I will definitely do that whenever I could. And
or
also,
don't put it off too much longer.
Yeah. And also, for those who are watching out there, watch The Voyage Home and The Wrath of Khan. You won't regret it.
If you definitely if 2, 4, 6, and First Contacts are honestly some of the greatest Star Trek movies, and 4 definitely you don't need any massive lore under your belts to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we said, it's just sit back, enjoy the ride, and welcome to the fandom.
It's honored. I'm honored to be part of the fandom. But this was a great episode though to get a more examination on the films and even the series again as a whole. So it's nice to talk about Star Trek with you as always. Yeah, and that's it for this episode. If you liked what you saw, make sure you like the video and subscribe if you want to see more. And hopefully sometime soon we'll get another episode out. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. See you later, guys.
Hey.